Okay, so here's a good question. How do we solve this problem of obesity in America for my son? How do we solve it for all of us? And the answer, of course, you've heard this one: eat less and exercise more. Right? Eat fewer calories. You've heard that, right? What's the problem with that?
People just don't follow through.
Right. Now, you've heard this. How about this part? Yeah, look, this obesity is not rocket science. It's just calories in and calories out. And if that's the case, the solution is also obvious, correct? You just push yourself back from the table and exercise more, correct? And if you don't do that, because it's so clear and obvious, there's something wrong with you. You're bad. You're weak. You're stupid, because it's simple, right? It's so obvious that if you don't do that, you're a dumb person. You're a bad person. You're a flawed and damaged individual. Mother didn't love you growing up. She liked your brother better, and that's why you're heavy. Have you heard those stories?
No, but...
Okay. No, and I feel really bad about it. But if it's simple, again, let me say this again. Obesity is simple. Calories in, calories out. The solution is also simple. Eat less, exercise more. Yet, our patients who come to see me have failed. Why? Well, if it's so simple, we must have a reason why they fail. What's the reason? The reason, I've heard a lot of these. You correct me. What's your explanation if I'm leaving one out? You're weak.
No, I think that is the strongest one in there. Is it?
You've heard that.
Just not disciplined enough.
You're disciplined, right. If like my classic example of the tough disciplinarian, is Sergeant Carter from Gomer Pyle, get down and give me 25, that kind of tough discipline, right? And if you had that discipline, you wouldn't be heavy. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So we have all these heavy people who have no discipline. And so really disciplined people are like, New York fashion models. Okay, if we say maybe discipline isn't it, we could say character. You don't have the character. Or willpower. Or we could say intelligence. You don't realize that eating ice cream is bad for you. So if we educated you, right? Well, I would like to put those out of your mind for a second, and I would like to talk about your breathing. I want to ask you to breathe less. In other words, your brain is up here, and I have decided, maybe you and I agree, that you're breathing too darn much. Okay? Stop breathing. Just hold it. We'll wait. What's the chance that your intellect, with discipline and intelligence and wisdom and a healthy arrangement with your parents, so you grew up as a healthy person, what's the chances you're going to be able to override your breathing and breathe less? 0. You ain't going nowhere with that. The reason is because we know in our brainstem is a very powerful control system which controls our breathing. And that system says you're going to breathe so much, you hold your breath, don't worry, I'll be back. You're going to breathe. Okay? And you can say, I think I'll do the reverse. I think I'll breathe real fast. And you're going to stop because that brainstem is going to override that. Okay? Your chances of beating the internal control system for your breathing are 0. Do you want to bet? We're in Vegas. You want to bet? I can make a fortune here this morning betting against someone overriding this powerful control system for breathing. Now, come back with me for a second and talk about your eating. Would you be surprised to know that research now shows we found the control system inside of you that hormonally controls hunger and satiety, eating, stopping eating, hunger, being full. If I found that system, you can think about it a lot like the accelerator and the brakes on the car. Okay? If I take over control of that, I can dial up the speed of the car, I can turn on the brakes of the car. And whatever you think about while you're driving the car, if I control those systems, you're out of luck, just like breathing. And we now know hunger has a name. We have found the protein hormone, just like insulin, a string of amino acids folded together that makes people hungry. And all of the people who know the answer, it is ghrelin. Okay? We know what makes people hungry, it's ghrelin. And I can make you hungry right now. I can inject ghrelin. And you'll be hungry as can be. And if I measure your bloodstream, if your ghrelin is down, I can tell you won't be hungry. We've also found the brakes. And what are the names? What's the name of the brakes? Peptide YY. And if I inject that into you right now, you're saying, I'm done, I'm full. I'm satiated, I don't need to eat. That's the brakes. And so I could start an IV on you, and if I wanted to, I could manipulate you totally as far as your ability to eat, your desire to eat, your hunger, and things like that. It has nothing to do with your discipline. You could be the most undisciplined person in the world. If I injected peptide YY, you would never eat another thing. If I overwhelmed your ghrelin. I don't care about your discipline. Just like breathing is controlled at a level that's more primitive than your intellect. Your intellect controls your discipline. This is this thinking part of your brain. I'm going to do 100 sit-ups. Okay? I don't care. Do 100 sit-ups. The brain stem that controls your breathing is going to continue to control your breathing. You do 100 sit-ups, you can't override ghrelin and peptide YY. Peptide YY and ghrelin hormonal systems were well made for when we used to be farmers. Okay? If you and I spend the rest of today cutting down trees, chasing a saber-toothed tiger and choking it to death and beating it up with a stick, maybe your ghrelin and peptide YY was okay for that, but not for Vegas. But this whole idea that we eat and that obesity and calories in and calories out are simple, think of your breathing.